Gamers, we have some exciting news. It's me, Lamani. New world, patch note release for the January patch coming, and we have Mutators coming. We have gear score and expertise changes coming, and we have Umbral shards on the way. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know for this January patch that's coming, and you can give it a shot today, starting at 2200 UTC, so that's 4 p.m. Central Time. The PTR will be live with all of these changes. Now, I'm going to preface this. All these changes that are listed, they are kind of conditional, right? There may be some more things that are added, some things will be removed. This is just the initial January release note for this upcoming patch. But as all of you know, I'm excited. Competitive PvE is what I love, so the Mutator system is going to be huge. I'll be playing this on stream tomorrow. We'll do some PTR stuff, just give it a shot, show it off. But as always, if you're interested, feel free to follow me on Twitch, do all the weird YouTube stuff, like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. This is the big stuff you need to know for this upcoming patch. First thing, we have expedition modifiers. So they're called mutators. Now, if you're not familiar with these kinds of systems, it would be very similar to something like Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft. Now, if you're not familiar, it's competitive PvE. So it's going to take these same dungeons that we know and love, but start to scale them up in difficulty and add new mechanics that we wouldn't see that rotate each week. So we'll have expedition mutators. And what's going to happen is the mutators will change the familiar enemies who are already in there, those elites and named enemies, with a certain new mechanic, whether they hit now with fire damage, maybe they do some life stealing, or maybe they just, the non-named mobs are significantly stronger than they are the week before. They're going to have a couple things rotating through, and as you increase in difficulty, they'll probably add more mutators. So for example, maybe there's 3 available each week. As you're like the +1 through 3 bracket, you get 1, plus 4 to 7 or something, you get 2, and then everything up from that, you get 3. But regardless, we'll go through some of those in a bit. So like I was saying, the system is going to rotate them through. Each week you'll have different mutators, but there's a giant list of them and what can happen. But there's going to be 10 difficulty levels for each expedition mutation. So you'll have +1, 2, 3, up to 10. And what I'm assuming is you'll have a flat % health and damage increase per plus. And then players will be scored. There'll be a competitive ladder, and you need to try and beat the highest difficulty you can while getting the highest score. They'll have some recommended gear score values for each plus level just to kind of give you an idea of where you should be at. But competitive PvE is on the way. Now, how do we actually get into these expeditions? So the big thing is we're all familiar with tuning orbs. Right now, they're saying that there's going to be a mutator orb. It's going to be crafted probably pretty similarly, but these are going to be universal, meaning you craft one and you can craft one per week, and then you can use it on whatever mutated dungeon you would like. Now, the bonus is you don't just get one. You'll be able to purchase additional orbs in the faction shop. So it'll promote more PvP, doing some OPR, doing stuff with your company, really getting some faction missions and some more faction play into the mix. I'm assuming people will still buy into keys, do stuff like that, but it may just be more worthwhile to buy your own. Now you may be asking yourself, which expeditions can we actually get into? Will we be able to do like Starstone and Amarine? As far as I can tell, here's the first thing to note. If you scroll down a bit, you're going to see some changes for expedition changes, and they're going to be talking about adjusting drops. But here they're saying that they added T5 gear drops to Dynasty shipyard loot tables when playing a mutated expedition. So that means they've confirmed Dynasty will be in that mix. I would assume in addition to Genesis and Lazarus. Now that leaves me to question, is Amarine going to be there? Is Starstone going to be there? I don't know yet. But the one thing that it does also say is if you dig into this top patch note, it does say the system is intended to rotate through a unique combination of expeditions and mutations each week. Meaning it's not going to be the same dungeons every week that you're going to be able to do. You're not going to just be able to spam, Lazarus constantly on +10 to try and get a 600 WODA, like that kind of thing. But it's going to be different each week, and as more expeditions come out, which they're intending to drop more, right? There's a lot that have been data mined. Those will be added to that unique rotation between both expeditions and mutations. So I'm not sure how many we'll get each week, but as of right now, there are 3 confirmed Dynasty, Lazarus, and Genesis that we will be able to get into. All right, let's talk about scoring a little bit now, because that's what's going to be the big component that's drawing people to this, not just the gear, but the competitive nature. Score is going to be different than other games. It's not just going to be calculated based on time. A lot of them have been faster, better. But this scoring system is going to include time. So, right, still better time is going to be better the score. But then it's also going to include AI kills. so just general mobs, but then it's going to have a takedowns bracket, which is going to be for all those named mini bosses and the big bosses in there. And then there's a team wipes that gets calculated in, so each time you full wipe on a boss fight, and then there'll be a separate respawn for when you die in between. All of these will come together, you'll have bonus multipliers, and they'll calculate you a rank that is bronze, silver, or gold. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be an advancement system. So as you try each mutator difficulty, there's going to be a certain pre-designated level of proficiency that will allow you to traverse into the higher levels. So they're going to want you to start with +1 to get to +2, then +3, +4, +5, and so on, I would assume. So it'd be similar, right? If I get like a 3-star gold on +1, it should let me go to like +4 or something like that. That's what they're saying by that note. It's not saying you have to go +1, then +2, then +3. It's going to let you go up 1 level if you maybe get a bronze, or up 2 if you get a silver, or up 3 if you get a gold. But in general, the scoring system is very different than what we were probably expecting. So you have to do more than just speed run, right? A lot of maybe what we were practicing was just, okay, how can we finesse this to get through this expedition the fastest? That is not the case. You have to kill things, you have to take down all the named enemies, and you're going to want to do a faster time. But we'll see how each of these calculates into the total score. There'll be a leaderboard for all of this for everybody to see. That's really exciting. Now let's talk mutation effects actually. So it looks like there's 3 broad categories, so A, B, and C. So if we look at like elemental, right, there's the broad category of elemental. What this is going to do is infuse enemies. And they give 2 examples, but for instance, maybe they do nature damage or fire damage or ice damage. So for example, Hellfire. Hellfire infuses enemies with fire, allowing them to burn players who oppose them, or Eternal, which is going to do void and give them things that can debuff and buff themselves. Now, promotions and curses are going to be a bit more exciting as far as the actual expedition gameplay and actually change things. Promotions, first one, like they're saying, Savage. There's now a healing reduction and they cast beams around themselves, right? So good luck healers. Or Indomitable, they now have life stealing and can summon a shield. And then there's something like curses, and these are going to be the craziest ones. These are going to affect players specifically. So elemental is just a damage affix, promotions affect just the creatures, and then curses affect the players. Now, curses, for instance, censored. Players will have to find their abilities turning against them. After players in the group have used a certain number of abilities, there'll be silence zones that will appear on all players. When the curse is empowered, players will lose natural mana regen and must enter the silence zones to regen their mana. That'll be interesting to play with, right? So there's some really cool stuff coming, and I'm excited for it. Now, what I'd say is there's probably going to be like a mix of 2 per week, right? So that's maybe why they listed 2 each. So it'll be 2 elementals, 2 promotions, and 2 curses, and they'll rotate between those 2, and it'll be random. But you'll probably get like, you know, in the bracket of +1 to 3, maybe just 1 affix, like maybe it's just elemental, and then +4 to 6 or something, you'll get promotions added in too, and then 6 or 7 and higher, you'll get curses, and then you'll have all 3 that you have to deal with now, right? It's not just something like that. And it'll probably just give you a random mix of all 3. So you'll have 2, 2, and 2, do a grab bag of each one, get you 3 total, 1 elemental, 1 promotion, and 1 curse for you to encounter in that certain expedition, and they'll keep changing. Now, just some other little things I think that are big. They are listening as far as fast travel costs. They're reducing the cost of fast travel, and they're reducing the distance factor in Azoth when you're making those trips. Accordingly, the faction control points associated with fast travel now reduce the distance factor to 0. So interesting, they're touching on distance factors. Then we just have some random bug fixes, general AI fixes. There are a lot of mob types we couldn't actually hit, so they adjusted like the hit box for bears when they're on their legs. You know, you weren't able to hit them before. Just general changes to all the AI, like reducing the healing from the villager potions. Those were annoying. And then changing some stuff with the tendrils that did all those big sweeps and stuff like that. There's also something mentioning the PvP damage formula update. This is something that they had mentioned in the past update, and it is now going to be coming into play. I guess. I don't know if it, you know, they're doing more changes, but it's the exact same patch note from when 1.2 went live. So I'd be curious to see what happens there. Otherwise, just some other bug fixes. Okay, now here's the real big thing, Umbral upgrade system. So Umbral shards are here. If you click on any piece of gear, you've been able to see that you can click upgrade. Now, what does that mean? So we can now upgrade individual pieces of gear from 600 gear score to 625 by spending Umbral shards. You can only do this once you've unlocked a 600 expertise for that slot. Now, how do we actually get these Umbral shards? Well, it's going to be Mutator expeditions. opening gypsum casts, and then actually crafting any 600 gear score item once you have a 600 expertise level. So for instance, I have 600 expertise on my helmet or something. I procced a legendary, and now I get an Umbral shard. Now, the other thing to note with that is that we can now get gear score bumps from actually crafting a 600 gear score item. The other important thing to note is that upgrading any item with the Umbral shard is now bound to the player. You can't just boost them up to 625 and sell them on the market. You're going to actually have to grind to get this really good gear. It's not just a buying, selling market for gearing now. So now the other big thing is that the expertise system is going to go to 625. So what does that mean? Right now we're capped at 590. We can still do everything we've been doing to hit 600 through our current means, like casts and random open world bumps. But once we hit 600, the only way to get our expertise higher is going to be through using the Umbral system. So individually using those shards, upgrading the certain slots that we're looking for. And I'm not sure if there's going to be a cooldown on, how many times I can upgrade in a day. We will see, but there might be like a soft cap on shards. It's all going to depend on how things play out. But in general, we have an expertise increase, and we have a system that allows us to go over 600 and individually improve our power through doing difficult content. And it gives you options, right? It's not like our original expertise system that negated crafters. Crafters, you can do this too. And the other thing to mention is, let's say your gear score is lower as a crafter. Well, what they did is whenever you craft that 600 gear score item, maybe you can't get an Umbral shard because your expertise isn't high enough. Let's say it's 570. You now get an expertise bump every time you craft a 600 item if your expertise is under 600. Absolutely fantastic change. I really, really appreciate that. Some other just quality of life improvements. If you get an expertise bump out in the world, there's going to be a thing that actually tells you what gave you the increase. If you get it from opening a cache, the opening sequence is going to highlight that item that gave you the expertise bump. And you can now craft Topaz Gypsum at tier 5 camps and Arcana stations, and they increase Topaz Gypsum from killing enemies in anything. So that is really nice. That was a really annoying one to get. But I think the other thing people need to see, expertise gear scaling is coming. So any item from the trading post or acquired through the player-to-player trading after this January patch is now going to be scaled down to the midpoint between your expertise and whatever it is. Let's say, you're at 550, or we'll just say 500 expertise, and you buy a 600 item. You will now have that item at 550, but you can scale it up as you get your expertise increases. Umbral system is going to be great. I'm super excited for these shards. And the big thing is that they touch on all of it for crafters and just PvE players alike. So I'm really excited for that. That's all you really need to know. So TLDR, Umbral shards, expertise increase coming. You can do it through crafting or actually playing the game, and all of these ways if you want to look into it on how to do it. We have mutators coming, and we talk about the expeditions that we'll be able to do. Dynasty, Laz, and Gen, it looks like for now. We have different mutation effects, and all of this stuff is here. Competitive PvE is on the way. So thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think about this. I'm super excited. Hit all the socials and stuff linked and leave a like and a comment. I appreciate you. I'll be streaming tomorrow on Twitch, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for being you.